While looking around the restaurant for a client I was supposed to meet, I saw my ex-wife, Susan. She was sitting with a slightly overweight middle-aged man. You could tell he was once in good shape, but good food and time had taken their toll on his physique. Susan was sitting right next to him, and you could tell she was in all her glory. Everything about the guy screamed money. As I stood in the foyer and looked at her, a flood of memories came flooding back to me. It's been 3 years since our divorce, and the emotions have resurfaced like it was yesterday. That's how I got to where I stood today, looking inside instead of sitting next to her. However, as you will see, her wish came true. All my problems started when I had to travel to Albany for a meeting with a client. I decided to do it overnight so that I wouldn't have to drive back for a long time. Within an hour of my car ride, my client called me and said that his fender was broken, but he was okay. He apologized for the late cancellation, and I told him no problem. We can reschedule the meeting. Either way, I really didn't feel prepared for the extra 2 hours of driving ahead of me. I told him that I would do my best and return home to have a romantic dinner with my beloved wife. I wanted to surprise her. An hour and a half later, I was finally driving along my street. The first thing I noticed was that there were 3 strange cars parked in the driveway. My wife would invite her girlfriends over when I was out of town to keep her company. So it wasn't a big deal to me. I parked my car on the street. I walked into the house thinking everything was fine. The first thing I noticed that was wrong was the 4 sets of clothes on my living room floor. I froze just as I heard my wife scream. It wasn't a help me cry, it was a fuck me harder cry that I knew well. My heart sank and I realized that my wife was having sex with someone else. My whole world was destroyed. I didn't want to go upstairs, but I knew I had to do it. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard my wife let out a primal scream. I quietly peeked around my bedroom door frame and saw 3 men. I didn't know 2 of them, but the third was her boss from work, Jeff Davis, and they had my wife in all places at the same time. I never liked Jeff, and now I know why. Sue, you're a great slut and I love having you. By the way, thanks for helping me with 2 of my favorite clients. I can tell they love your slutty body as much as you love using it. Jeff praised her. This asshole was pimping my wife for his business clients. All 3 of them started using my wife as their personal sex toy. They gave her everything they had and called her all sorts of derogatory names. She seemed to become even wilder from this treatment, and they had her even more. I've never seen her behave like this in the 10 years we've been married. Although I felt that Jeff's choice of slut was the most appropriate name for her. I quietly backed away, but they were so busy that they didn't even notice me. I quietly went downstairs and went into my office. I found my digital video camera and it had some battery left. There was an old holiday cassette in it and some space left. I didn't want to make a feature film, just document my wife's actions for my lawyer. I quietly walked back to my bedroom door and started recording the video. I got good shots of my wife's face as well as everyone else. I only took 5-10 minutes of video because that was all I could handle. Now, some men may find this sexy and arousing, but not me. This whole scene saddened me. I went limp and felt betrayed. Seeing my wife become a whore for other men was almost unbearable for me, and I went downstairs to calm down and think soberly. I went into my office and took my gun out of the safe, taking the safety off. I'm not a violent person, but I was just in the mood to fire a few bullets if they started acting stupid. I then went into the living room and took all the car keys and wallets from the pants that the men had left on my living room floor. I went outside and deflated all their tires, including Sue's car. When I got back inside, I had a smile on my face that would make the Grinch jealous. I started to formulate a great plan, and I knew it would work if Sue took her cell phone. I noticed it on the bedside table in the bedroom while I was recording a video. I got my camera ready, went behind the stairs, and quickly dialed Sue's cell phone number. It rang several times and I got on her answering machine. She knew I would call around this time, so I called back every 2 minutes until she finally answered. She must have told them to be quiet because they could hear a pin drop in the house. "Hey Bobby, how's Albany?" Sue asked, out of breath. I could also hear the quiet chuckles of the men in the room. "Looks like you're out of breath. Are you all right?" I asked her with feigned concern in my voice. Yes, I had to run up the stairs to the bedroom to answer the call on my mobile phone. She quickly covered herself. "Well, my client canceled the meeting, and I'm going to be home in just a few minutes. I was wondering if you wanted to go out to dinner," I asked her in an even voice. Inside, I was crazier than I had ever been in my life. "Are you returning home now?" she asked in a nervous voice. "Sounds great. I just need to get ready, baby. See you." She said all this very quickly and hung up before I could answer. I laughed to myself because I knew what would happen in just 1 minute. And sure enough, 4 completely naked people began to descend my stairs into the living room. All the men got dressed in record time, and Sue also got dressed and tidied up her clothes. All the men ran out at the same time, and Sue put on some shoes and a jacket with them. She walked to the door and looked outside, hoping they would leave before she went outside. If she hadn't been so excited, she would have noticed my car parked on the street in front of our house. All the men began shouting something to her at the same time, and she went out onto the porch to listen to what they were talking about. At that very moment, I slammed the front door and locked it behind her. My wife just saw my face as I was closing the door and tried to look through the side window and speak to me with a pleading tone in her voice. "The time for talking is over." All the other men returned to my porch and began banging on my front door within minutes. I knew they wanted to take their wallets and keys. I called 911 and reported people trying to break into my house. The dispatcher said one of my neighbors just called her. I told her my name and address. Just 2 minutes later, a police officer showed up at my house. I waited until the police questioned my wife. Then I opened the door and walked out to the 2 police officers who were at the scene. "Officers, these men raped my wife, and I want them all arrested," I told the police. This caused an immediate reaction from the men. They all immediately started shouting, "I was invited. She wanted it herself. I didn't rape anyone, and she wanted it from all of us." Everyone, including me, looked at Sue, waiting for an answer. She lowered her eyes and avoided meeting my gaze. In a quiet voice, full of shame, she said, "I invited these men into my house. I had sex with them and no one raped me. I did this of my own free will." All the men seemed relieved that they were not facing rape charges. Around this time, 2 more police cars arrived. At my request, they wrote down everyone's names for their report. Then the senior policeman said to me, "If your wife invited these men to your house and they are all over 18 years old, there is little we can do for you. I would suggest counseling or something like that." He said this while looking at my wife like she was a piece of shit on his shoe. I told the police to call a taxi and that Mrs. Thomas would not be allowed back into the house that evening. One of the guys called a taxi because he discovered that all their tires were flat. They also tried to accuse me of taking their wallets and keys. But I told the police that I had no idea what they were talking about. I turned and walked back to the porch. Sue stayed with them until the taxi arrived. I just stood on the porch, and daggers flashed in my eyes. My wife tried to come up on the porch and talk to me, which was a brave thing to do at that moment. If she knew how angry I was and that I had a gun on me, she might have run the other way. "Bobby, I'm so sorry that..." She tried to say something, but I immediately cut her off. "You broke my heart, and I will never forgive you. Jeff called you a slut, and I think that's fitting. From now on, I will call you slut and will never use your real name again. If you ever need to talk to me again, do it through Tad." And with that last comment, I went into the house and locked the door, leaving her standing there. She ran back to the group, crying, and Jeff tried to hug her. She pushed him away, and for some reason that made me feel a little better. My good mood quickly faded when I returned to my bedroom. The whole room smelled of sex. For some reason, this just set me off, and I started trashing the whole room. I took the mattress and threw it on the front lawn. I went to the garage and grabbed my toolbox. I began to dismantle the bed and throw it in pieces on the front lawn, along with the mattress. I returned to the bedroom and picked up Sue's cell phone from the floor. I checked the list of her numbers and messages. Of course, she had disgusting emails, photos, and even a few videos of some guys I never knew fucking her all over. However, judging by the photographs, she knew them very well. I started looking for garbage bags to put all her clothes in, and I had to laugh at myself. I was attentive to her, but those days are gone. I carried all the boxes from our bedroom downstairs and placed the contents of each box in a separate pile on the front lawn. I then tackled all of her extra stuff in the guest room. This is where I got my next surprise. I moved all the dresser drawers from the guest room out onto the lawn just like I did with Sui's bedroom items. The last bottom drawer was stuck and wouldn't open all the way. I wasn't in the mood, so I took my anger out on my dresser drawer. I pulled really hard and heard the plastic crack. I pulled out the drawer and tried to open it slowly. It opened immediately, and I was able to see what was causing the problem. Under the drawer were 7 or 8 DVDs. I broke one of the plastic cases, but the drive was still in good condition. My heart sank again as I looked at the discs. I didn't think I could feel any worse, but I did. While going down the stairs, I read the titles on the discs, and it didn't make me happy. I went into the living room and put everything on shelves for review. First up was Sue with her best friend Sarah at Sarah's house. Sue helped out at her parties in Avon every Tuesday and Thursday, or so I thought. They actually had sex with some guys at her house. Over the course of several hours, Sue and Sarah had sex in all sorts of ways with multiple partners. I started to cry, but stopped when I saw the last 2 discs. The first was how Sue had her own tennis instructor during lessons that I paid for. She went there every Saturday and always came back too tired to make love on a Saturday night. Now I really know why. The second disc showed Sue having sex at her workplace at the boardroom table with Jeff, her boss, and Jeff's boss, Bill Evans. Bill was a big deal in the community, and his picture always appeared in the newspaper at one event or another. I watched as he carried out his charitable work on my wife's private parts. I took out a large envelope and put it in a cell phone, discs, and a cassette tape that I had filmed earlier. I planned to give the entire envelope to my lawyer and best friend, Ted Worth. We've been friends for as long as I can remember. He was one of the only 2 people in the world that I truly trusted. Nothing else mattered. I looked at the computer desk and saw Sue's computer. I pressed space and it came to life. I made copies of everything that was on the computer. Every file, emails, photos, and videos I copied. It took about an hour to copy everything over, and then I sat down and started going through my wife's computer. There were videos of her having sex, just like the ones on the CDs I found. I found pictures of her that you can only see on adult sites. Then I started reading her emails, sent over about 6 months. She tried to hide them under some stupid program file name, but I found them. She had several letters from Jeff and several other men. The rest was between her and Sarah. They were only being written off last week when I read one that literally almost killed me. I thought about using my gun but realized she wasn't worth it. I had to be strong. The only email that upset me this much was from Sue to Sarah. Sarah asked her why she didn't leave me and become single again. She also asked Sue to perfectly describe what she wanted in her future husband. This is what she said in response. "Sarah, I don't want to do anything with him now. Bobby is as loyal as he is stupid. I really feel like it's only a matter of time before he finds out about my secret lifestyle. He's not completely stupid. It's just that love is blind. He's been blooming a bit lately, and his belly is getting bigger every day. Sometimes it's hard to be attracted to him when I compare him to the guys we have. I also hate beards and mustaches. This makes him look, I don't know, kind of disgusting. I guess I really loved him at one time, but the excitement of the last few years is too much to give up. His best friend is a lawyer, and if he interferes, it could cause difficulties. Jeff and Bill from work hint at promotions and raises, also including a rise in their pants. I laugh. I also want at least a house and a car. If I do everything right, I can also get a little alimony every month on top. I'm looking forward to our party on Tuesday. I should be there if I can still walk after my tennis injury. I laugh. God, Tony is a machine. Make sure I get the video from last Thursday. This was the first time I worked out with so many guys at the same time. As for the man of my dreams, I want him to be wealthy, loyal, manageable, and stupid. He has to kiss my ass anytime I want and still ask which butt. I laugh. I don't care about the bedroom department as long as it doesn't have money. I laugh. I can get everything I need somewhere outside the house. Sometimes it seems almost too easy. Damn, Bobby is home now. I have to go. See you on Tuesday. Call me. Sue, best friend. I read this letter so many times that I could almost memorize it. The words disgusting and the last few years really hurt me more than words can express. Was this how she really felt about me? Was I so blind with love that she cheated on me for over 2 years? Immediately after that, I went to bed and fell asleep on the sofa. I woke up early and called work. I really didn't sleep well and mostly tossed and turned from side to side. Calling in sick from work, I called my best friend Ted Worth. He was my friend at first, but he was also my lawyer on most issues. Mary picked up the phone. She was Tad's secretary, and I had known her almost as long as Tad. That morning I asked for an urgent meeting, and she said he would be in court all day. Mary, tell Ted to meet me in an hour in his office. If he bothers you with some crap, mention Tammy Brown's name. This should get his attention. See you in an hour. I told her, and hung up before she could answer. I started to get dressed, and then my cell phone rang. I looked at the number because I didn't want to talk to Sue at all. It was an unfamiliar number, so I picked up the phone in case it was Ted calling back from somewhere. Hello, Mr. Thomas. This is Bill Evans from Susan's office. If possible, I would like to talk to you about the troubles that happened last evening at your house. If you would see fit to meet with me today in my office, I would like to help clarify the situation for all concerned. I wasn't sure he knew I had video of him having my wife at his place of work, but I knew he was worried about 2 of Jeff Davis's big clients. Plus, my wife and Jeff were valuable to him. I don't think he wanted to lose his valuable employees. I also knew that he was worried about negative publicity for his company and about himself personally. Mr. Evans, I have an important meeting this morning, but I promise that I will call you back on this number before noon to arrange something for today. I reassured him in response. My tone was even, and I said it as if he was talking some sense into me. God, he was in for a big surprise. As I walked out the door, I could still see what looked like a really weird yard sale. The broken bed and all of Sue's clothes were still there. One of my elderly neighbors gave me a small wave, and a funny expression appeared on his face. I knew I was going to be a 9-day wonder, as they say in the news business. It was a suburb. I went to the city center and had something to eat. I gulped down some food and headed straight to Ted's office. Mary prepared a cup of coffee for me. Lots of cream and no sugar. We really knew each other for a long time. Holy shit, Bobby. I don't know what you have for Tad, but I mentioned his name and he told me to cancel all appointments for today. I could use a month off if you want to tell me who Tammy Brown is, she added jokingly. You'll have to ask Ted. By the way, where is he? I asked her. He said he would be there right away. He needed to reschedule his meeting with the judge for today's court hearing, she told me. Just at that moment, he entered the door. Holy shit, Bobby! Tammy Brown, you must be in big trouble for mentioning that name to me. Come into the office and let's talk. Mary, don't connect me with anyone right now. Tad said all this very quickly. I took my coffee and he closed the door so we could talk. I told him about the events of the previous evening and what I had learned about Sue's new lifestyle. Then I gave him an envelope full of things I had collected and he finally spoke. He listened to my story and never interrupted. I could see the legal wheels turning in his head as he recalled the events of the previous evening. I also told him about Bill Evans's request for a meeting today. Well, Bobby, as they say, first things first. I've known you for a long time and I know you're devastated. Is there any chance that you and Sue will make peace? He asked me. Ted, if we were talking about Katie, your wife, and you saw those videos and read the emails, you would leave her in a heartbeat. I want a divorce, but I also want to do some serious damage. I'm not going to go quietly into the night, I admitted to him. Okay, first we'll sue Tony and the Ace Tennis Club. We can't touch Sarah because she's just a good friend who plays with Sue. Sue's company is a different matter entirely. Secondly, I plan to sue the 2 clients who were at your house, as well as their companies. We're also going after Jeff Davis, Bill Evans, and company, he said. This might get bad before it gets better, Bobby, he told me. I don't care even if I have to stand on the street and use my fists. I'm going to make these people pay for screwing me through Sue, I told him with anger in my voice. Okay, Bobby, tell me again what Bill Evans wanted, and we'll go from there. Ted told me. We discussed several different options, and I liked the last one the most. A full frontal attack on Sue's company sounded best. I had an ace up my sleeve with video footage of Davis, Evans, and Sue in their boardroom. Tad told me that, as Sue's bosses, they controlled her position. It can also lead to serious jail time. I liked the way it sounded. Tad also hinted that once Bill Evans found out what we had on him, his attitude would change, and they would offer me some money. I told him that if it was less than $2 million, he could kiss my ass. I'll tell you what, Ted, let it be $2.5 million. I've seen your legal fees before, I told him with a laugh. Come over tonight at 7 p.m. and Katie will cook a delicious dinner for both of us. I think you could use a break from home, he demanded. I called Bill Evans back and made an appointment for 2 p.m. Immediately after this, Mary poked her head into the office. Ted, they're calling you on line 1, she told him. Mary, I told you, no calls, he said, and got really angry. Sorry, Ted, but this is Susan. She wants to talk to you, and I thought you might want to answer, Mary continued. Sorry, Mary. It's going to be a long day, and it's just getting started. Does she know Bobby is here? He asked her. Not that I know, Ted, she countered. Tell her I'll talk to her in a minute. He said more softly as Mary quickly walked out into the reception area. Well, I bet she's already discovered that her cell phone, computer, and all her DVDs are missing. I bet she was mad that I dumped all her shit on the front lawn along with our bed, I told him. Wow, you really had a busy evening. Let me talk and don't interfere in the conversation. As your lawyer, I need to clarify a few things right now, he hinted to me, pressing the connection. I started to hear a one-way conversation, but I could almost make out what she was saying to Tad without even hearing her words. Hi, Susan. This is Ted. Yes, I already talked to him. Bobby is a great guy and my friend. I thought that of all people, you would be the one who would cover his back and not stab him with a knife. No excuses, Sue. I'm not in the mood. Yes, I'm going to represent him. He has very strong arguments. You know it won't be pleasant, right? I'll talk to him. But you crushed a man who was always faithful to you and loved you to death. I don't think he cares what you think. My best advice is to get yourself a good lawyer. You will need one. Yes, Bill Evans made an appointment for 14:00, although I don't think you should be there. Listen to me, Sue. If you so much as show up at the outside office door and listen through the glass, I'll tell Bobby to leave and all hell will break loose. Better wait it out and control yourself today. I know he put your stuff out on the lawn, but just like you can invite strangers into your bedroom, he can throw your stuff out of the house and onto the front lawn. Frankly, I'm surprised he didn't shoot anyone last night. Oh yes, he was with him, although for the purpose of self-defense. Remember, he thought you were raped. This was stated in the police report. I don't know, but if it were my Katie, I'd be in jail right now. I think he was hot-tempered under the circumstances. As for your computer, cell phone, and any other things that were not in the house this morning, you will have to ask the other owner of the house. Perhaps he left it all on the lawn along with your clothes, and someone took it all. I really can't say. I have completed all of your escrow paperwork on the house, and you both have the same rights in the house. How you choose to exercise these rights is up to each of you. Okay, I'll tell him. Right now, I would recommend that you stay there and let Bobby live in the house until everything is sorted out. I don't think it's safe for you to be in the same house with him right now. Listen, Sue, even now I want to punch you in the nose, so don't insist. Stay with Sarah and I'll be in touch. Please have your lawyer call me when you have one. Tears won't help you now, Sue. In addition to being his lawyer, I am also his friend. Your tears fall on deaf ears. I can be a ruthless bastard whenever I want, and this seems like the perfect situation. I have always liked you and respected you until today. I'm sorry that you will see a side of me that only my enemies and ill-wishers see. You won't like it. Okay, but stay away from him and don't leave your office. Right now, he wants nothing to do with you. Goodbye. Tad finished and looked up at me. I think you heard most of the conversation?